Chapter 2 takes us to the next phase where we actually pull together the planning process. So now we start taking and putting ideas together on paper and start visualizing where the plan is going to go. So the basics that we need. What information do we need? So first of all, we got to set goals. Then from those goals, we need to then create tasks that will help us reach those goals. We always have a formal planning process, or we should have a formal planning process. And what does that mean? It means document, document, document. By the end of this 8 weeks, you are going to be tired of hearing me say document. But that is a big part of what we have to do as managers in all aspects. Is there needs to be documentation. It's not just, oh, somebody said this. There has to be documentation that goes along with it. So something you might as well get used to as far as being a manager is that there needs to be documentation for pretty much everything you do. We need to make sure all the information is available for use in planning, because the last thing we want to do is start the planning process and then realize that all of our data is not there for us to be able to pull from. We want to make sure that the planning is done at the right organizational level. You know, there are some things that are done in the trenches, so to speak, where you can do planning with your cooks, with your dishwashers, and get them involved in the process. But you'll also find that in other aspects, you'll need to do planning at the manager level, at the owner level. There's many different levels that planning can be done depending on what you're working with. It's a matter of making sure you've got the right team around you for the planning that you are doing. Next part, of course, I just kind of hit on, involve your staff as much as you can in planning. If you involve your staff in planning, it gives them ownership, so to speak, of the process. And it's easier to get buy-in, to get the employees to want to do these things when they feel that they've had a say in it, and not just this is what's coming from upper management type of thing. Make sure you have resources that can be committed as part of the planning. You know, the one thing you don't want to do is start the planning process but don't have resources, whether that's allocation of money for processes, whether it's the time or any other physical resources that you might need. Make sure that you have that available as part of the planning process. The information that you're going to need: operation information, community information, industry information, and state, national, and international event information. Why is this information impact the business? How does this information impact the business? Because we don't work in a bubble. You know, yes, we need to know our operation information, and we need to know, you know, what we have budget-wise, what we have hour-wise, what we are looking to do internally, but we have to understand that it's all part of this bigger picture, and the fact that we need to take into account that there are other factors outside of the business that we need to take into consideration. That is why community information is vitally important. Industry information, what's going on in trends and stuff in the industry, and then state, national, international event information is all important too, because those can all play a part in the planning process. They can be help or they can be a hindrance, but we need to make sure we know at the onset so we can prepare for those as needed. So I love the picture there. Anyone can steer the ship, but a leader must chart its course. And, you know, that's a huge thing. You know, anybody can get behind the wheel and make it go left and right for the ship. But unless you've charted the course, you know where you're going, you're just wandering aimlessly. Unfortunately, I have seen too many restaurant businesses, especially the small independents, that don't have the leader to chart the course. There's no course being charted. It's just wandering around aimlessly. Let's see what works, and, you know, throw things up against the wall, see what sticks. But it's not in a organized manner. It's a real haphazard, and it makes it really tough. And those tough instances can cost money. And in an industry where, we work on small margins in a lot of cases, that can make the difference between staying open and having to close. In a nutshell, we are looking at value, vision, and mission. So value, what are the core values of our business? What do we value as a business as a whole? The vision, what the business wishes to be, what is our ultimate goal? And then the mission is how is the business going to meet its values and visions? Now, you've probably heard the term mission statement. So, but if you look at it, that's the third one of that information. There are also vision statements and value statements. Most of the time, we don't usually hear about those. We usually hear about the mission statement because that's the how, that's the nuts and bolts. That is kind of what we adjust everything by as far as how we plan. But a mission statement doesn't happen unless you have value and vision statements, whether they are formal, written out, which they should be, document, or if they are informal, goals, guidelines that you use. But again, try to make sure you have that in writing. So you have the value statements, the vision statements, the mission statements. You can see the information there. Value statements, they are the standards that guide the operation. The vision statement is what to become and why we exist. It's an inspiring statement of some sort. And the mission statement takes that vision statement and refines it. It states its purpose for the organization and how it reacts and works with employees and to customers. That's a big part. A lot of times we see mission statements that focus on the customers, and that's great. But a great mission statement also understands that the employee is an integral part of that mission, because if it's not for the employees, you're not going to have a business. So you see these great mission statements that involve not only the customers, but also the employees as well. Information for you. So ICC has its mission statement, it has its core values, it has its philosophies and policies, and they are all right on the internet. So these are links here. If you go onto the actual PowerPoint, you can actually click right through and you can see the mission statement of ICC. And you've probably heard it before, especially this short one right here. Through learning, minds change. We believe by changing minds, we can change the world. But now then we have this full, what is the mission statement of the college? So we have our mission statement. We have the core values of the college here. It's what guides our actions. Sounds familiar? And you can see this one's pretty long. It talks about these different parts that the college considers its core values. And then different philosophies, our philosophy and different policies. So if you're interested in learning more about how the college looks at mission statements and value statements and stuff like that, there's some information for you right here. Okay, implementing vision and mission statements. So, that's great that we, come up and we make these vision statements and we put together these beautiful mission statements that, are just amazing to hear and just awe-inspiring, but it doesn't do you any good unless that is the base for how decisions are made within the company. So these statements are useless unless they are used to drive the decision-making process. And that's the thing about these statements. To use them right, they're not just there for fluff to be put up on your website or to be put on your menu or whatever the case may be for people to read. But to do it right, to do it justice, you actually have to weigh every single decision based on, does this meet the threshold? Does this meet what our goals are for our vision and our mission statements? So every goal planned, task created, decision made should be able to relate back to how it upholds the vision and mission statement. Wow. That's a lot heavier, I think, when people first hear that. Then it's just, oh, we're just creating this great, paragraph, catchphrase thing that people are going to love. No, you should take that and use that as your litmus test for every single thing that you do within the business. So from these, we create goals, right? Goals are measures that we use to see how our operation is doing. And ideally, goals should be SMART. I love acronyms in business, right? There's a ton of them, but SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, right? So specific, it needs to clearly state what's expected. This is a one-sentence goal. It's very, very specific. This is what we're trying to accomplish. We don't need the overarching vision. That's what vision statements and mission statements are for. Those are those general information that's put out there. A goal is very specific. This is what we're trying to accomplish. It needs to be measurable. It has to have a measurable result for comparison. So you need to be able to set a goal that you can measure to see, did we make it? Achievable. It's something that we need to strive for, but also realistic, right? So it's trying to strike that balance, but we don't want it like so super easy that, oh, it's done, and like, oh, we didn't have to really do much of anything. But on the flip side, we want to make sure that it's not so difficult of a goal that it's not even remotely possible, because then what that does is that just, gets people down, and it makes them not want to try to achieve that goal. If it's something that it's like, no way this is ever going to happen, like if our goal is to get 100% customer satisfaction from every single comment card that we get for 6 months, is that really an achievable goal? I mean, pie in the sky, that'd be great, but we know realistically that is not going to happen. So why put a goal out like that you're going to fail to meet that goal? Now, we don't want to necessarily do, our goal is to get 40% positive comments in our comment cards. If you can't get 40% positive comments with comment cards, there's other things that you need to be rethinking, right? So you got to find something that, and that's where you look at that data. Maybe your data is saying right now you're getting 60% positive comments on the comment cards. So maybe the goal is getting it to 80 or 85% or something like that, right? Because you can create other goals later. Maybe when you reach that 80% goal, then your next goal is to get it to 90. So you can create stepping stones, but don't make it, okay, we're at 60% positive now I'd like to get 61%, because then that's not, doesn't make sense either. Is it relevant? Does it relate to the vision and the mission statements? Again, it all goes back to, can you tie it back to those statements that you created? And then you need time bound. You need dates by which this goal should be reached, because if you don't set a goal, if you don't set a time, we just push it off. We all know that, right? If I just said, yeah, turn stuff in whenever you want it. I know a few of you would probably be like, yeah, I'm getting it done the first few days, but I know there's probably a lot of us here listening to this that'd be like, yeah, just put it off, or, oh, I'll get it done when I get it done. You need to set dates. You need to set that time that those things need to be done, so you have that sense of urgency to make sure it's get done. Now, again, you want to make sure that it's reasonable. We don't want a time bound being, oh, we want to go from 60 to 80% positive customer satisfaction in a week, right? That's a kind of a tough one to do. But if you say, oh, we want to do 60 to 80% in 2 years, then what's the push to really, improve that in the near future? Does that make sense? Hopefully. So when you're putting together goals for your business, think about, are they SMART. Okay? We have three basic types of goals that we look at as a business. We look at organizational goals, and those are broad statements of achievements. So that could be things along the lines of, our goal, the goal is to win best in the Midwest for casual dining from the Hospitality Association. That's a broad goal of achievements. There's not one individual thing that really needs to be done. It's a combination of things that need to be accomplished that way. What's nice about organizational goals is then once you have an organizational goal, you can actually create tasks and goals at the department and the individual level to help meet that organizational goal as well. So department or team goals are ones that are broken down into the smaller sections. So they could be back of the house goals, front of the house goals, accounting goals, bar staff goals, depending on how many departments or teams that you have, creating these different goals that are linked to that organizational goal. And then individual goals are things that you and your individual employees look at as far as personal efforts on how they are improving themselves as professionals. Typically, those are part of the performance appraisal when it comes to evaluation, when it comes to raises, things along those lines, which we'll talk about in another chapter. So as part of goals and putting things together, we get into a bit of marketing. And one of the things that you want to do is what's called a SWOT analysis, SWOT, not SWAT. We are not part of police force and learning special weapons and tactics. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And by creating a SWOT analysis, this helps us to identify what goals we can work towards to improve our business. So the first two, strengths and weaknesses, are internal things that are going on in the business. So these are things that we control because they are internal to the business. Opportunities and threats are things that are outside of our control. They're outside of the business, but we have to take them into consideration because they can affect the business. So some sample SWOT questions you can see. Strengths, what do we do well? What advantages do we have over other establishments? What resources do we have access to? What do we do for our customers that exceed what they expect us to do? What things do we do that's better than our competition? You get the idea. On the flip side, the weaknesses. What are we not doing well? What can we improve? What should we avoid? Where are we wasting money? The strengths are cool for us because it's that make us feel good. Yeah, we're doing this well. We're doing this well. This is great, et cetera, et cetera. Weaknesses are tough because you've got to actually take a hard look at yourself and say, okay, we know we are not perfect. What can we improve upon? What are we not doing well that we need to make sure we can do better? But through those weaknesses, that can then give us goals that we can try to make and turn them into strengths instead of into weaknesses. On the flip side, we have opportunities and threats. So opportunities are things that are going on outside of the restaurant, in this case, that are a positive for us. So what trends could boost demand for our product? What opportunities will occur because of changes in the community? How does technology help? Things like that. So things such as that you need to look at. If you've got, a new industry that's coming in, that's considered could be an opportunity because a new industry coming into the area means new people coming in, which means new opportunity for new customers. So you can create goals on things that are opportunities. On the flip side, threats are things that could hurt our businesses outside of us. Or what obstacles are we facing? For example, if there is construction going on outside of your business, that is a threat. It's not a weakness because you guys didn't do it, but it's a threat because what happens if there is construction going on right outside your business, you're going to have a tougher time getting customers in because they're not going to necessarily want to deal with the traffic and stuff that comes from that construction. So that can be considered a threat. An interesting one I always had was when I was working in the industry, the Taste of Peoria. That was an outside source. Now, depending on where I was at, it was an opportunity or a threat. So when I was at Lindsay's on Liberty, it was an opportunity because we were right downtown where it was being held at, which meant it gave us an opportunity for us to be a part of that event, showcase our food, and get more people to know about what we are and the amazing food that we had. So in that case, it was an opportunity. When I was at the Ivy Club, though, it was a threat because it was considered a threat in a small sense because that day, guess where people were probably going to go instead of coming to eat at the Ivy Club? They were going to the Taste of Peoria. So things that are short term or things that are long term, like the construction or like jobs being lost through Caterpillar or what have you, those could be considered threats. New businesses moving in, those are opportunities. You can look at those and how can you create goals to maybe turn those threats into opportunities, and how can you capitalize on those opportunities and bring in money and make new customers. So, a SWOT analysis, when done right, is a great tool for you to use to help you identify and put together goals. And SWOT analysis, that's like marketing 101. That's the first thing that any marketing major is really going to learn, because that's kind of the basis for how you go about a lot of different things. Is you look at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. So long-range planning and business plans. So a long-range plan is typically a 3 to 5 year plan that creates benchmarks for each year, where a business plan then is your activities to support the goals and the long-range plan. So 2.9 in your book has a sample long-range plan. So the department in the long-range plan is your food production. The goal is to reduce employee turnover to 30% or less within 3 years. And so in the long-range plan, you have your data that shows, okay, now you have a 40% employee turnover rate. So the first year during this long-range plan, your goal, your benchmark is to get down to 38. Then in year 2, you want to get down to 35. And then by year 3, you want to have it down to 30%. So you can see, this goal is being set, and, goals don't, again, have to be too long a term, but they don't have to be too short of a term. So this one, they've incorporated into a long range plan that you have those benchmarks over that 3 to 5 years. For the dining room, you can see you want to, this sounds familiar, right? Increase positive customer comment score to 95% or more within 3 years. So right now, the example says it's 87%. Goal 1 is 89. Goal 2 is 92. And then at the end of year 3, you're at that 95. Okay? So those are some examples of long range plans. And it's those things that you're looking at. Okay, hey, we know it's not going to happen overnight. We know it's going to take some time, but we're going to set these benchmarks that we're going to try to meet, every year till we get to where that long range plan is at. The other thing nice about long range plans is it gives you a consistent goal to shoot for. If all you do are short-term goals, it just seems like you're going this way one week and you're going this way the next week, and then next month this way that you're heading. There's not a lot of consistency. By having long-range plans and long-range goals going, you have a little bit of that stability that you say, oh, this is a big thing that we feel that we need to work on. And it's so important that we're going to look at it over the next 3 years or next 5 years and how those things come together. Very, very important to look long-term as well as short-term. So business plans are, again, activities to support the goals. So here's an example of a planning worksheet from the book. What is the goal? The name of the project, if you have it, what the budget for it, who's on that team, and then what are they doing as part of the goal, who's responsible for it, what do they need as far as resources, when's it due, and when does it actually get done. So you can see, again, this is part of that thing I was saying earlier. Remember, document, document, document. That comes along with being management. It's having that documentation, having that paperwork that's showing, here's what we are accomplishing. And remember, when I say documentation and paperwork, it doesn't always necessarily have to be pen and paper. In this day and age with technology and Google Drives and stuff like that, you can do a lot of this stuff digitally and have that available for people, but not have to worry about having those huge 3-ring binders that have all this paper in it. You can go right into a shared drive and access it through the different folders and stuff and have it right there as well. So something to think about, that you can do all this stuff and do it digitally fairly easily if you have a decent amount of computer knowledge. Okay, so from putting together goals and plans and mission statements and value statements and vision statements and all that stuff, there's also a couple other side things that go into this as part of the planning process. First is a marketing plan. And the basic marketing plan is a calendar of activities that are used to meet the revenue goals. So we're pulling them together to make sure that we are, these are the things that we're getting out there to help bring in money, to help drive business, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, the one that we all love, the operating budget, and that's the financial plan to estimate our revenue, expenses, and profits. I think as culinarians, one of the last things, we even think about is, oh, this is exciting. Let's put together a budget. That's for the accountants and those that really enjoy the math and all that fun stuff. But again, as part of working in this industry and being a chef and running kitchens or running restaurants, that is part of that, is the operating budgets and putting together the financials and, what is our anticipated income? What's our anticipated expenses? How much are we going to make as a business when it's all said and done? So all of those things really are important pieces to this big puzzle. So when you put it all together, again, 2.11 there in your book, you have your vision statement and your mission statements. From there, you create long-range plans, your business plans, but then side things are your marketing plans and your operating budget. And you can see it says at the bottom that this is shown in order. Each tool must be planned before the next can be addressed. And it gives you examples for these. So the vision, to be the best establishment for business travelers in the community. And then the mission statement, to meet the dining and small group meeting needs of community business visitors by providing desired food, beverage, and small group meeting services. The long-range plan is to provide food and beverage service to 60% of the number of community business visitors identified by the local CAVB, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Tourist and Convention Center, within 5 years. And in order to do that, they're going to increase the number of community business visitors as identified by local tourists by 5% within the next 12 months. So taking that 5-year plan and then starting to break it down into smaller things, in this case, the business plan, a 5% increase within the first year. From there, then you create your marketing plan. So you create strategies to increase community visitors and business visitor counts. And then in the end, of course, you have to have the operating budget. What's the revenue from and the cost to provide those products to those business vendors. Finishing it all up, putting it all together. How do we reach the goal? So in order to reach a goal, we first have to develop the plan, and then it has to be implemented. Once it's been implemented, we evaluate how is it working, and then we take the results and we apply them to start that circle again. So we develop them, we make sure that everything is going well, and we get the right people involved with it. We communicate, and document. It gets implemented. We document the process of it and the progress of it to make sure that things are going where we want it to go, and also to look at if things are not going as we originally had done in the development phase. We evaluate it based upon the SMART goals that we created. we communicate how things went, and we make sure we always recognize and celebrate the work of the people that did it, because you know we need to acknowledge those people that are putting their time and effort to get those things together. And then we apply any results. So any changes that come about for that, we make sure those get applied. Make sure again we communicate and we document it, and then we create and we start the process over again. Welcome to the world of planning, ladies and gentlemen. A big part of what we do as managers is the stuff we don't even think about. You know, all we see is the fun stuff, the actual cooking and the menus and the things that our customers see. But it's more than just that, because we have to understand that it takes planning in order for it to be done. You know, the prior planning prevents poor performance. I know there's usually another P in there, but I did leave that one out. If you don't know what it is, ask a friend. So that is chapter 2, ladies and gentlemen, on planning.